Okay, so now we're in chapter 14, which is discussed in standard number 12. Describe China's influence on culture, politics, and economics in Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. We're going to discuss the Sui dynasty, analyze developments of the Chinese, and examine the Chinese and the age of exploration. Now, once again, this Chinese history of China is very broad. I'm just covering a small portion of this video, so we're not going to get nowhere near the amount, but we'll just kind of uh, see how it goes. When the Han Dynasty collapsed, China split into several rival kingdoms. Now, this is going to lead to the period of disunion because what happens is when the Han Dynasty collapses, a bunch of different groups, kind of the Warring States period, a bunch of different groups come together and try to take over. There was a mixing and blending of Chinese cultures during this time. After centuries of political confusion and cultural change, China was reuniting, with Yang Zhang being the man who ended the period of disunion, forming the Sui dynasty, which was the new unified China. After the Tang dynasty failed, China entered another period of chaos. In 960, China was once again reunited by the Song dynasty. So this is going through this, the Sui, the Tang, the Song, they come after each other. Basically, what happens is that this dynasty starts up. Remember, a dynasty is just a family that keeps power for a long period of time. The Sui dynasty was a family that kept power for a while. Then when it fell, the Tang came into power. When it fell, the Song came into power. The Song dynasty lasted about 300 years and was filled with great accomplishments. Some of the inventions that came out of this time was gunpowder, a mixture of powders used in guns and explosives. And the Chinese used this to create fireworks. It said the Chinese found this out by mistake, how to make gunpowder. The compass uses the Earth's magnetic field to show direction. We've all seen a compass. The idea behind this derived from the ancient Chinese. Among the nomadic people that attacked the Chinese were the Mongols. The leader of the Mongols was Genghis Khan, which was known as the universal ruler. He was taking over everywhere at this time. He was just going everywhere he could. Genghis Khan organized the Mongols into a powerful fighting force and led them on their expedition. So let's just go back to that for a second. Genghis Khan is going to be the grandfather of Kublai Khan, which is going to also play a big role in world history. It's also a big thing whenever he comes into China, when it comes to Marco Polo, and Marco Polo's time spent in China is under this period as well. Just a little bit about the age of exploration in China. You have Zheng He, which is the greatest sailor of the period. His fleets were huge. He had over 60 ships and 25,000 sailors. His voyages were a clear sign of China's power. The idea was to build these huge ships with these massive amounts of people to show them who they were. Now, there's some talk that Zheng He actually made it to the Americas, but it's kind of talk about him being someone that discovered America before Christopher Columbus. But when it comes down to it, we really don't know who was some of the first people, of course, besides the natives, to find America. In the 1430s, a new Ming emperor, Ming Zheng He, dismantled his fleet and banned foreign trade. Now, they're going to practice this thing called isolationism, which China's going to practice for a while. It's a policy of avoiding contact with other countries. In 1644, the Ming dynasty was overthrown, and by the late 1800s, Westerners were allowed to influence in China again. So you look right here, they take this period of isolationism in the 1400s. It's not to the 1800s that people's going to be going back into China. It's the reason why that China's been able to keep a lot of their culture and heritage alive is because they went through a long period of time where they didn't let anybody in their country because they didn't want to deal with different things. And that's kind of the policy the United States took up until World War I was a period of isolationism, trying to stay out of foreign affairs if they could. But China does this very well. They hold to a lot of their religious beliefs, a lot of their cultural ideas. A lot of trade gets cut off during this time. But of course, China is a major player on the trade seen today. So that's just a little bit about the second chapter of China. Like I said, there's a lot more to it. There's only so much I can get into in this lesson tonight. So, because there's only so much I can put on YouTube. So, that being said, this is just a little bit about China. I encourage you to look up more about it because there are so many interesting things that happens during this time. You know, you look up the Sui dynasty, the Song, the Tang dynasty. You know, there's so many different things that you can look up about. So I encourage you to do some independent study on that and look a little bit more about these different dynasties and what China was like 700 years ago, 800 years ago, and on into the more modern time. So that being said, this is going to be all of this video. So pay attention for the next one as we continue this series of going through the different standards for 8th grade history.